Now, bringing all the players together is very important. The United Nations has done this with many of their agencies, like the International Labor Organization. You mentioned bringing together labor management, a variety of different folks who have an interest. They have a stake in these issues, and they're part of the solution to help to deal with some of these problems or challenges with these particular issues. Along with these groups, what are some of or who are some of your other partners? Do you team up with like service clubs such as Rotary International or the League of Women Voters or different groups like that? Do you bring them into the discussion?
Right, we do. We bring together different civic organizations who can agree on these broad principles on economic long-term security as well as health security. So we have the American Heart Association, the Cancer Society, all these different organizations come together in this way to help show the diversity that we bring as well as the collectiveness.
Mm-hmm. Now, AARP, it's American. It used to be American Association, but I made a mention or alluded a moment ago to the United Nations, and why don't we just do a segue right into the United Nations. You are involved with a lot of the UN agencies on a variety of issues. How did you get involved? How did AARP get involved with the United Nations?
Well, global aging has always been a big consideration, and our founder well knew that we were part of a larger ecosystem of the world on aging issues. It wasn't just the United States. So AARP has been involved in this for many years, and for 35 years we've actually had a chance to focus on different programs on economic security as well as health issues that we could look at together.
Okay, now who are some of the main partners within the United Nations system that you're teaming up with? What are some of the other agencies?
Well, the Council on Social Development is really where we have done some briefings, and we are able to kind of bring together a focus on both the implications of a large growing population of older people, both in developed countries as well as in developing countries. So some of the issues are quite similar. You know, we need a sense of safety and a basic decent living environment because around the world people are aging despite poverty that we have here, that it is quite a statement of tenacity of families and communities and villages that being intergenerationally connected. These are the kinds of things that happen globally. So there is a lot that we have in common both with developed countries as well as developing countries.
And these are issues that are cross-cutting. They're not endemic to the United States, they're not endemic to Canada, not endemic to Zaire, whatever it may be, a Democratic National, or the Democratic Republic of Congo. These are really cross-cutting issues that affect all of us, and we all are connected. There are about 6.4 billion people on the earth today, and there are issues that are out there, and we're all going to be confronting these. At some point we're going to age. It's going to happen, and as we age, these issues that we're dealing with, these challenges affect us, but also our children, our grandchildren, the people next door, and the people in our society, so that it's important to focus on these. Now, the United Nations has done this in a variety of ways, and when I think back to 1999, as I recall, they had a major unveiling, the International Year of the Older Person, commonly called IYOP. Right. What was the International Year of the Older Person? Why did they do this?
Well, I think it was the recognition that the global population of aging was coming to the fore. So in addition to thinking about the challenges that you mentioned, the ability to talk about the image and the opportunity of aging. So to frame a much more complete picture of what it means to age in this whole globe with the needs that we have, the opportunities, and the contributions. So it really was important to have a much more complete picture that as we age in every society, there's a huge contribution that we can make, so that rather than seeing it always as a worrisome thing, I think we, I think the opportunity to reframe this in a much more full ecological way that society can benefit by all generations, but with the strength of what older people bring.
You're watching Global Connections Television, and the main purpose of Global Connections TV is to focus attention on international issues that impact people from Frankfort, Kentucky to Frankfurt, Germany, and from Lima, Ohio to Lima, Peru. We also try to look at organizations such as the United Nations and other organizations to determine how they can be of assistance in dealing with many of these international problems. Today we're talking about aging. We're talking about an issue that will affect all of us at some point in our lives. And my guest today is someone who's an expert in this area. She's involved with the AARP. Jennie Hansen of San Francisco, California, is the AARP president for the 2008-2010 biennium. She holds an appointment as senior fellow at the University of California, San Francisco's Center for Health Professions. Jennie, we're talking about AARP, and this is really, I think, probably the premier organization within the United States that focuses on focuses on aging issues, aging problems. We're talking about how you're related and interrelated with the United Nations. We have mentioned the International Year of the Older Person in 1999, and in 2009 we celebrate the 10th anniversary of the International Year of Older Persons. What are you planning? What's the United Nations thinking about doing in 2009 to focus the spotlight on this very important segment of our society, the older people?
Right. Well, with the fact that they're celebrating 10 years right now, there's an opportunity to look at what the vision was that was set 10 years ago. So how can we even make this clearer, and how do we bring it to thinking about what we have accomplished? And I think this year there are two areas that are being focused on, and that is looking at the social integration of older people into the whole fabric. So often, you know, we age segregate entities, and sometimes, of course, that's easier to define. But the danger sometimes is to start putting them into silo blocks. And the reality is people live in families and communities that are intergenerational. And so social integration is one core theme. The second one is understanding that many of our countries have really not thought through the kind of infrastructure that's necessary in their countries and through their governments relative to the social structures, economic structures, and health structures. This is an opportunity to help organizations that in countries that are perhaps either developed or developing to make sure that this is in place as the population grows. So again, not only the challenges, but again, how can we reaffirm the contributions so that both the contributions economically, emotionally, and culturally, so that we can see the value of that. So one is about families, and the other one is about systems and structures.
Now, we won't leave the UN for too long, but let's step outside and go into the international community. Do you have partners in other countries? Are there replicas of AARP in some of the developed countries, some of the economically developing countries, or do you just network with associations that may have kindred interest in the areas that are of interest to you?
Well, of course, we have been one of the founders of the International Federation of Aging from the very, very beginning of that association. So we have had that kind of affiliation on one level. AARP has also developed some more specialized focus on certain countries whom we have now a more formal relationship with. Countries that have organizations that really want to model their programs in their country similar to having a not-for-profit entity such as AARP, with a charitable works arm, with an education and advocacy arm, and with a commercial arm that helps move the market with products that help people who are 50 and older. So we do have other partner countries with whom we have collaborated as a network now. And Denmark was an initial one, as is Italy, and in Canada as well. So, and the Netherlands. And so we do have that a cadre of first countries that we've started with and are working with others too.